As we went into lockdown here in LA in the middle of March, I started to realize my kitchen just wasn't cutting it. The room filled with smoke whenever we cooked. The sticky drawers I'd been living with for 10 years started to really get on my nerves, and the interrogation room overhead lighting was functional but made an already dated kitchen start to look really bad. It was time to do something about it, but knowing that most home renovations never pay off, I wanted to be strategic, and I wanted to do it without spending a ton of money. In this video, I'm going to share what I've learned as I've gone through the process of planning my kitchen remodel for a little under $7,500 to help you save time, money, and hopefully some headaches along the way. If you watch till the end, you'll learn how to maximize the fun and enjoyment you'll get out of one of the most used rooms in the house, and hopefully when you sell, recoup more than you spent. Let's get into it. When I started this process, my goal was simple. I wanted to fix the problems I had, refresh the look of the kitchen, and obviously to do it for as little as possible. But we're in the middle of COVID, and I really can't have the kitchen be out of service for very long. We're doing breakfast every day, lunch most days, and cooking dinner 4 nights a week. That means whatever I do, the kitchen can't be out of service for more than a day or two. First, let's talk about budget, because that's going to govern everything else that happens. Think long and hard about your budget before you begin. One rule of thumb I found was to go out and research your appliance package, and then to take the cost of that, multiply it by 5, and that would give you a rough estimate of how much you were likely going to spend on a kitchen remodel. Your budget's really going to depend on how many trades need to get involved and how much you think you can do yourself. When you're planning out your budget, remember there's kind of a law of diminishing returns. The more you spend, the less likely you are to recoup it when you sell. So when you look at a renovation, you need to think of it in terms of ROI, or return on investment. That's the money you're going to get back when you sell for what you've put in. That's not the only consideration, but it should be one of them. And in many cases, the return on investment for these things is less than 100%, meaning you don't get back everything you put in when you sell. When you're thinking about your budget, fight the urge to over-improve. Obviously, things will vary depending on your individual real estate market, but nationally, according to Zillow, a minor kitchen remodel returns about 81% of your investment, a mid-scale renovation about 59%, and a large-scale renovation even less than that. You just need to go into this knowing that you're probably not going to get everything back when you sell. So you need to be doing this for you. You need to get what you want, while simultaneously not making it too personalized and something that's going to be a turn-off to future buyers. Just as a point of reference, the National Kitchen and Bath Association recommends budgeting 15 to 20% of the value of your home toward a kitchen renovation. But consider the source. Their whole goal is to make you spend more money on your kitchen renovation. So I think that number is grossly overstated. If you're trying to shrink your budget, don't move walls. Don't change the layout of the kitchen if it's working for you. Save the cabinets and everything else you can. And remember, a whole lot of things are interconnected. So once you've got your plan, stick to it. If you start going down the path of changing something you'd planned not to do, it may very well affect things you've already done. As you move through the planning process, think about what works and what doesn't work. If something's working, there's no need to mess with it. Like I said, if the layout works, don't change it. But if it isn't, you definitely need to bring that into your renovation plans. Let's talk about specific categories. When it comes to countertops, don't cheap out here. You're going to be seeing those things every day, and you want something that's going to stand up to the demands and the use of your particular kitchen. Do your research on materials, don't try to follow a trend, and figure out what will work for you long term. Now let's talk about lighting. I don't recommend doing your own electrical work, but if you are comfortable with it, upgrading your lighting is something you can knock out in a weekend. And if you hire a pro, it's something they can do in about a day. I was able to buy a 4-pack of canless recessed lights at Home Depot for under $100. They fit pretty much anywhere you want to put them because they don't need any space above it, even if there's a joist in the way. Now, cabinetry. Cabinetry can easily be one of your biggest expense categories after appliances, so if you can save them, do it. I've got solid wood cabinet boxes, so I'm planning to sand these down, repaint them, and then install new doors and European hardware, giving it an entirely new look without spending nearly as much money. The other option you can do, of course, is buy IKEA cabinets. IKEA cabinets have a huge following online. Semi-handmade, makes doors and drawers that go right on top of them so that they have a more custom look than the IKEA look. And that's certainly an option if you really do need to change out your cabinets. Otherwise, there are lots of ways to order inexpensive cabinets online, ready to assemble. Your mileage may vary. My biggest recommendation is to try and save what you've got and use the boxes. No one will know that you've done that if you do it right. Now let's talk about the kitchen sink. Stainless is the most popular option, but it has some drawbacks. Inexpensive stainless can be dented easily, it can be scratched. Those scratches take a while to melt into a patina. Cast iron sinks will withstand the apocalypse, and if you're looking for something that's hard-wearing and long-lasting, that's probably a good way to go, as long as you're okay with white or some of the other colors that porcelain sinks can be done. Undermount sinks look more custom, but basically if you have to replace it later, you're going to have to replace the counter countertops too. Drop-in sinks are less expensive and very popular. A lot of stainless steel sinks will self-rim on the top of a counter, and you may be able to later replace that sink if for some reason it gets too scratched or dented or it makes too much noise and you don't like it, you want to get rid of it. Along with that, you need to think about appliances, because together with cabinetry, that's going to form more than half your budget. If you've got appliances that are working, try and work with them. New appliances may not necessarily work any better than what you have, and in fact may not hold up as well as the old stuff does. People seem to throw away appliances long before they're worn out, which means that if you do need new appliances, take a look at Craigslist. To give you an example, I was able to buy a virtually new Bosch dishwasher on Craigslist for $100, and I'm still using it to this day. Now, flooring, paint, windows, walls, trim, all that other stuff, that's actually going to probably comprise a small portion of your budget if you stick to my tips. Even if you get somebody else to do the other things, these areas can be a great place to flex your DIY muscles. So that's what I thought when I was still early along in the process in September. Here's how the project actually ended up finishing up for me. So I started in June thinking I would just do some of the simple stuff, try and take care of the venting, the sticky drawer slides, and maybe the lighting. The first thing I did was the drawer slides. I actually tried some ball bearing slides that were 3/4 extension retrofit slides and figured out how to use those with my existing drawers. That kind of worked. It was okay. And in fact, I did use that as a solution in between while I was still doing the kitchen, but I didn't realize how much of an issue 3/4 versus full extension would be until I kept having to fish for silverware in the back of the drawer and actually have to pull the drawer out in order to get to it. And that's a huge pain in the neck. After I did the drawer slides, I didn't really do much else. I kind of looked at the range hood, I thought through it, but I hadn't really started the process until one day the interrogation room lighting that I had in here started shorting out. When you turned on the light switch, it actually blew the circuit breaker because it was arcing up in the electrical box because of some bad electrical work somebody else had done in the past. So I moved lighting up the priority list and just tore into it and made a huge mess. And ultimately it worked out. When I went to cut the first hole, the plaster chipped off the ceiling. I had to move an electrical box. It was a disaster. The second one went fine. The third one though, the adjustable hole saw went off and actually started to cut a spiral hole into the ceiling, which was awesome. So excited. By the time I got to the fourth hole though, everything was perfect. I totally figured it out. After I finished with the lights, I actually thought maybe I shouldn't do any more. When I did the lights, everything looked great. It was a huge upgrade. If I could say do one thing to your kitchen to make it better and maybe save you from having to actually renovate the thing, just change the lighting. Recessed lighting, better lighting makes a huge difference. Just from how the kitchen looked before to after I finished the lights that night looked amazing. And I'm so glad that I did that. I wish I'd done it 10 years ago. That's something I could have done long, long ago and at least been able to see what the heck I was doing. The next thing I looked at was the venting. I went down a bunch of different paths. What I had was an 8.5 inch opening. I measured the opening, figured out maybe I could fit something in there, and decided to build a custom range hood enclosure, which you saw I was already halfway through doing when I filmed the video in September. As a not woodworker, I think it actually turned out okay. I'm pretty happy with it. What I had was a copper range hood that you can see in this picture, and that had kind of like a 90 CFM fan inside of it that was kind of a new-tone fan. It's almost like a bathroom fan. That obviously was not adequate, and it was way too high above the stove to actually make a difference. The range hood, by far one of my favorite purchases that I did on this project. It made a huge difference. Now when we cook dinner, it doesn't fill the entire kitchen with smoke. I absolutely love it. And it's the second most expensive purchase besides the countertops that I did. And I'm so glad that I did it. Again, one of my early problems was bad lighting, bad ventilation, and sticky drawers. And I fixed those things relatively quickly. The ball bearing slides that I bought as kind of a hope that they would work and get me through were good enough, but not great. After suffering through some of that, I decided to actually bite the bullet and do all new drawer boxes and get Bloom undermount soft close slides. And along with that, decided to convert what had been a pot and pan cabinet on one side of the kitchen to just 4 drawers so that I could just pull the pots and pans out instead of having to open a door. Even with a sliding shelf, having to do 2 steps and save 1 is a huge difference for me. And not that big of a expense, really. It just meant buying extra drawer boxes. The big thing I did wrong when I ordered my drawer boxes was I actually ordered the wrong wrong size and I ended up having to order them twice. So that was an extra $400 or so that I didn't plan on, and kind of pushed the budget a little higher with all the other things that I'd done. Not something I'm proud of, but those kinds of things happen. Bloom undermount slides are based on the inside dimension of the drawer, meaning you need to know where the drawer slide sits on the inside and subtract the width of the drawer box from your dimensions. So it's the drawer opening minus a certain size to fit the inner dimensions, and then you size the drawer boxes accordingly. The way that I did it was I ordered the drawer boxes as if that was the outer dimension, not the inner dimension, which meant every drawer box I ordered was an inch too narrow. If anybody, for some reason, wants custom drawer boxes that are the wrong size, let me know. They're still sitting on my patio. Eventually, after thinking about it long enough, I figured the sink was outdated, and I just bit the bullet and decided sink, countertops, new faucets, the works, and just do it all fresh and new. And I'm pretty glad I did. I got the Kohler Prolific sink, which is awesome. It's kind of a workstation sink that lets me do some cool stuff, remove accessories. It comes with a colander, a washing bin, 2 racks, and a cutting board that just fit right in there and save a bunch of counter space. And that's a really cool feature. I've actually used that a lot since I finished the kitchen. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know if I would necessarily go with it again. It dented almost immediately. I don't know how. And the scratches that people talk about online are real. It's now, several months later, starting to blend into a patina, so it's less of an issue, but it's still something that's not totally cool. It's a kitchen sink. It's gonna happen. It's probably fine. The only thing that anybody did in this kitchen that wasn't me was the countertop fabrication and installation. Before I had the countertop people come out, I actually demoed the countertops, and I had what are called mud job tile countertops. The way that a lot of people take that out is with a hammer, and you'll see all over the internet that that's what you have to do. One person on YouTube was like, don't do that. Go in there with your angle grinder and a diamond blade and just cut it into squares, and it'll actually lift off, which is exactly what I did. It came off in sheets. By doing it kind of that careful and easy process, I didn't damage my cabinets, I didn't damage my walls, and I was done in 2 days. My largest expense was the countertops and the range hood. I kept my appliances. I recently bought a refrigerator not too long ago. I had a new garbage disposal. My stove is 70 years old and showing no signs of quitting. It's dead simple, so why change that? And I actually like the look of it. Well, a lot of this work meant moving partially out of the kitchen. I never fully moved out. I would put the drawers back in the openings every night using those kind of temporary slides that I'd put in. The longest I was without a kitchen was 14 hours between when I took the sink out and when they finished putting the countertops in. I took the sink out the night before they came. The next day, they came and installed the countertops, installed the sink, and I put the plumbing in for the sink that night and was back to cooking again. It's easy to kind of get ahead of yourself and start thinking of blue sky, what if, oh, maybe I should do this while I'm at it kind of things. At one point I thought maybe I'll just do new low work cabinets so I can get a different layout, a different configuration. The IKEA section system looked pretty cool. The problem is my kitchen is constructed for cabinets that are actually 23 inches deep. The countertop is 24 inches deep. IKEA cabinets, I think, are 24 inches deep, which is, I think, the standard. And once you put a countertop on that, it would overhang, and that would mean it would overhang into the door here, or I'd have to do some modification, so I kind of ruled that out. That's kind of been a constant in this kitchen, that things are a different size than would now be common. I had the same problem with the refrigerator. The refrigerator I actually have is the only one that will fit in the space. Or it's the biggest one that will fit in the space, and it's only one manufacturer that makes it. Everybody else is like ½ an inch too high, and then it won't fit in the opening. With all that said, thanks so much for watching my video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. It's a small channel. Thumbs ups, things like that make a huge difference to me. And let me know if there's something I could have done better or should have done better in the comments below. See you next time.